Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
Good morning, I'm Ayo Makinde.
Well, yes, indeed. We're going to go ahead into the dailies. We've got Deme Akpan, who is with Vanguard newspaper. Good morning and thank you for coming on today. Let's start off with your paper and look at how they lead today. Insecurity is a big one everywhere you turn today. Defend yourselves, Catholic bishops tell Nigerians, as Northeast governors ask Buhari to address root causes of Boko Haram's insurgency. Let me read all the riders here because there's so many of them. President meets governors, security heads in Aso Rock. New strategies will restore security. Described to Buhari. Nigeria gets new equipment to fight insurgency. STF arrest 8 suspects over Southern Kaduna killings. Gunmen shoot man, abduct girl in Katsina, kill school owner in Taraba. So a potpourri of events happening about security across the country here. So what's your impression about your reportage on this one?
Well, let me start like this. I can put it in 2 words, hope and despair. When Mr. President came into office, Nigerians were full of great expectations. They were expectations based on many factors. One was that as a former general in the army, that President Buhari had the capacity to deal with insecurity nationwide. Second, it was also based on his pronouncements. The president came out saying that the former President Jonathan was not doing enough and that he will deal with this issue as soon as he comes into office. So Nigerians were really full of expectations. But as soon as Mr. President came into the office, there were still expectations. Nigerians were willing to give enough time to deal with this insecurity. But as we rightly know, Nigerians have given up because they don't know how much time they need to give Mr. President and his team to deal with insecurity.
Can we afford to give up?
We should not give up. If we give up, that will be too much. We shouldn't give up at this time. Nigerians should begin to have hope. It may not be based on this team because this team has lost its own team. This team has lost its team. That's what I want to say. So Nigerians should not give up, but the salvation or the solution may not come from this team. That is why I believe many Nigerians have been calling on Mr. President to reject the security apparatus of the nation.
If you say solutions cannot come from this team, well, they have to provide solutions. That's why they're there, isn't it?
That is why Nigerians have been calling on Mr. President to do something about this thing. We need to bring in new people with different ideas, with different capacities, with different equipments, different tools to deal with the situation. Because we have given this team maybe the past 3-4 years, and we don't seem to be close to addressing the main issues. We need to bring in a team that have a clear understanding of what the real issues are, security-wise, and who have the right strategy to deal with it.
Well, look at this one also above this lead story. MBA, PDP kick, as Buhari says, with army, police, APC could have overrun opposition. So you just wonder, where did this come from? But they're reacting to that statement.
I don't think it's the right thing to say at this time, because it shows that probably the ruling party or Mr. President has given the security team an instruction to deal with, maybe in favor of a particular political party. But I think that as a detached president who should be for nobody and for all, it should not be seen to be saying this at this time.
But into politics proper, which is at the bottom strip here. Edo, harsh words as Wike alleges APC plot to void polls. Wike talks better than he campaigns, governs APC campaign. Obaseki, Esson agenda deceptive, says Ize Yamu. PFN tasks Buhari on violence, electoral reform. So there'll be a big focus on the forthcoming Edo elections. And many wonder, can this one go without violence?
Well, honestly, we are worried about developments in Edo. When the campaign started, probably nobody envisaged that we'll get to this point. But from what we have seen so far, it is very likely that we are going to have a lot of violence in Edo State. With the aggression PDP is bringing to bear and the APC is also bringing to bear. In fact, even before this time, you could have seen the developments, the build-up, the intrigues that we have been watching. And you see, the tempo is not really going down. It's building up gradually up to a finishing point, and it may be very disastrous.
Can we avoid it? What can we do to avoid it?
I think what we can do is to maybe summon the major actors to a meeting, just to let them know that this is not a do or die affair.
Yeah,
and if the bottom line is service, delivery of quality service to Nigerians or to the people of Edo State, they shouldn't be seen to be going this too far.
Well, yeah, look at the back page of Vanguard Sports. Europa League, Man U, Inter book semi-final tickets, but about transfers, Sancho going nowhere. That's from Dortmund, as United miss deadline, and several other transfer news on the back page of Vanguard this morning.
The Nigerian Tribune leads with the same Northeast governors meet Buhari story. Why insurgents are able to recruit more, find that story on page 3. We've talked about that a lot. Of course, that picture right there validates the meeting with the president. And right under that one, FG to remove 23,089 parastatals pensioners from payroll. Varsity pensioners, 2,220 retirees of PHCN affected. Removal of pensioners' name may be catastrophic, says NUP. NUP warns. That story is on page 8. You see anything of concern in this story?
The payroll thing?
Of pensioners. Pensioners might be removed from payroll.
Well, I think that the pensioners, they always attract sympathy from many people. When you look at how many years somebody has spent in service, active service, with the expectation that once they leave the service, there's a package waiting for them, at least to spend the rest of their lives. And suddenly you hear that they are going to remove your name. I think the government should tread very cautiously, because they may be victims, innocent persons who might have not committed any offense. So they should be very careful in the process of sorting out and then addressing the issues and getting this repaired. Because it's not really funny. There have been stories of people who have fainted. Not in the case of the National Assembly fainting. People have fainted or collapsed completely in the process of queuing in different states to sort out problems, including teachers, which shouldn't be the case.
All right, the Nigerian Tribune also has so many stories, but right above the nameplate, a couple of stories. The appeal court sets aside deregistration of political parties, INEC to approach Supreme Court. You find that one on page 23. And on page 2, you'll find COVID-19, no testing done yet in 85 local governments across 20 states. That's according to the PTF, says Nigeria yet to reach pandemic peak. Stories on page 2. 85 local governments across 20 states, no testing, not one.
Yes, honestly, if you look at the statistics they are giving us, it gives us impression that we are counting down, that we are witnessing or recording less and less number of cases in the country. For me, this may not be the reality, because there are so many Nigerians out there who are yet to be tested. So if we are going by data, we should be able to test all Nigerians first, or a greater percent of Nigerians, before we draw that conclusion. But if the figures are dropping, and maybe a greater percent of Nigerians have not been tested. So we will be running into a wrong conclusion to assume that we are at exit points of getting out of the problem.
Well, on the back page, you may want to also look at Ebonlu Adeboruwa's article there. That's the Nigerian Tribune this morning. Malcolm?
Thank you, Ayo. Let's quickly take a look at this paper for you now this morning. The Guardian is next now. You see there, investors lose 2.63 trillion naira, and you see there, shareholders to forfeit dividends as profits shrink. Cadbury, Total, Unilever, others record huge losses. Operators urge government to boost the real sector. So you see right there, investors lose 2.63 trillion naira. They seem to be focusing on the business and economic aspect of this. But are these figures any surprise to you, considering just how this year has gone in terms of the pandemic and the economic effects it would have on companies and investors?
Okay. Yes, you didn't read it, though? Yeah. Did you?
No, it's just right there.
Okay, I should read it. Or
what do you make of the lead story?
Okay. Are we on?
Yes, go ahead.
Investors lost 2.63 trillion.
Is that a concern for you?
Trillion naira.
Of course. It should be a source of concern at this time. Let me just give you the first paragraph here to show how serious this matter is. The devastating effects of COVID-19 on critical sectors of the economy may shrink profit of quoted companies and negatively impact dividend payouts by as much as 60%. Dividend payout by as much as 60%. In Nigeria, lockdowns were imposed across various states, limiting operational activities in first quarter. Public and private sector revenues were also hit by lull in economic activities.
But what do you make of all of those things that you see on the front page, especially the lead story and the riders? And why should we be concerned? Honestly, we should be concerned because coming out of the lockdown, so we assume that we are coming out of it. It is a period that Nigerians are aware they have lost so much. In terms of lockdown, no activity, companies were shut down, some workers were sacked or fired, incomes were dropped, even households and schools, markets were shut. So we have really suffered in terms of our economy. And that explains why this is the result. But we are hoping that by the time things begin to stabilize, maybe gradually, because we don't expect a sudden rise in economic activity. By the time we begin to come out of it gradually, it will not be realized in a short term. But in terms of medium and long term, we hope that by the time demand begin to rise for oil, currently selling about $40 a barrel, then as a nation, we are going to generate income. This income will rub off from our expenses. And then we're going to execute projects. There will be need for more employment of people, and then the economy will be on its steam up again. So the recovery from this kind of losses recorded here will not happen tomorrow. But we are very optimistic that in the medium and long term, definitely we cannot remain where we find ourselves. Okay.
Well, let's leave it there for the Guardian newspapers.
Okay, let's take a look at the next one now. It's Daily Trust. Well, they also focus on security. Boko Haram kills 223 civilians, 89 security agents in 7 months. Insurgents recruiting more members. Northeast governors tell Buhari, you have to do better. President warns security chiefs again. provide adequate security, Sultan can urge Buhari. So much as, yes, you might have focused on this before, but these numbers, does it appear to you as though, people in different quarters are taking it with a lot more seriousness as they ought to, or that many of these persons who have said a thing or two can do much more than what they have done? Just talk and advice.
As a matter of fact, insecurity is the main problem of the country at the moment. You have seen massive movement of people, including very young people, from all parts of not only the northeast, but the entire north to the south these days. You can see all the Okada riders everywhere in Lagos. They spread all to the southeast and even south side. So it's a major issue that the government has to wake up to address. It can't be worse than this. I think we have gotten to a point where we have to do something seriously about this.
Oh yeah, that's the main one. In fact, there are several aspects of that security. Bandits disguised as women abduct 2 in Kaduna town and several others. But that will be Daily Trust this morning.
The Daily Times newspaper leads with an economic story. Why forex market is under immense pressure. You find that story on page 2 of the paper this morning. Is there any obvious reason to you why forex market is under immense pressure?
Why forex market
remains
under pressure? Well, the fact is that we have about 3 exchange rates in Nigeria, which shouldn't be the case. We have the official one, directly tied to CPN. You have the Malam exchange rates and other exchange rates controlled by Bureau of Exchange and other institutions. So it's under pressure.
But the CBN has done now, so they're going to unify it.
Yes, they are going to streamline and have probably only one for the nation. So we must recognize the immense expertise and contributions of the present central bank governor and his team in ensuring that we get to a point where we have a functional exchange rate for the country. But it's under pressure because of the demand. Demand for exchange rates is very high. I'm sure you already know that we import almost everything from outside the country. We're importing, with the collapse of the refineries, we are importing all petroleum products now come from the foreign markets. We import even toothpick, frozen chickens, fish, rice, everything, cucumber cast. In fact, I'm very worried about the massive importation of cucumber cast because, like I read somewhere, in other countries where things are done in the right way, we should even be charging less duty on brand new vehicles so that we can encourage people to go and purchase this kind of vehicles. But by the time you begin to put more duty on such vehicles, you are discouraging Nigerians from buying
what about the locally assembled ones?
That's even the best thing to do. We should be able to look inwards at this time and patronize our own, the innocent motors of this world. We have locally a few indigenous manufacturers, including IVM, innocent motor vehicles. I'm very impressed that one of the key operators in the oil and gas industry, the chairman of OSEF, recently went to the East to patronize that automobile.
So on the one hand is the automobile,
by conserving foreign exchange and enhancing local content.
On the one hand is what you talked about, the automobile industry. On the other hand are several other sectors. Is there any reason why it seems Nigerians prefer to patronize the imported ones as opposed to the locally made ones, or even investing in such things we import as toothpick and rice and the rest of them?
I think it's a colonial mentality. How many of us are very proud to wear locally produced materials, fabrics, textiles? If I come to your studio or maybe elsewhere, some people may likely look at my legs to see whether I'm wearing a bar-made slippers or so. They will expect me to wear Italian shoe.
Is it just about the colonial mentality, or do we have the infrastructural base to support all of those? The pricing, the distribution, it's a whole gamut.
it cuts across the entire value chain. But we need to start from production. We need to work hard, have stable power supply in place, produce the best we can at this time. And then we now be able to do a kind of orientation, cultural orientation, to tell our people, look, this is our own. Let's produce. And of course, we shouldn't expect a perfection in one day. If you are a student of world history, you can see how other countries evolved over the years. You can see how Japan, China, all of them evolved. It didn't happen in one day. It was that certain people decided that they will close their borders. In China, in Japan, in all these countries had to shut their borders first. And then they started doing what they can at that time. And over time, they perfected. So if we must grow, we should close our eyes to anything foreign and then do the little we can, step by step. We think we can get there.
Well, some other headlines on the front page of the Daily Times newspaper: 523 million naira school feeding, World Food Program silent on minister's claims. Chinese loan, lawyers express divergent views on China loan, sovereignty clause, and trafficking alarm over dozens of trafficked Nigerians in Saudi Arabia. That's the Daily Times this morning. I don't know if you want to...
Yes, I would like to make a few comments about China.
Okay.
One thing about China is that when other countries were running around Africa to colonize the countries, you didn't see China anywhere in Africa colonizing any country. Did we see? No, we didn't see. Actually, they didn't want to come out that way. They decided to go through economic way of colonizing countries. And that has always been their strategy. China will go to any country they want to go to in the world and give them loans, give them infrastructure, give them whatever they want to give them. And these things are not always gift. Always, in most cases, strings are always attached to these things. It therefore means that nations, especially African countries, I'm not saying that this is actually happening in Nigeria. I don't have the facts. But in Africa, other African countries, there are examples of different countries, including, I think, one of these countries recently. China had to go all the way to seize their economy, seize their infrastructure, because they were overexposed to taking loans from China. So over time, you got enslaved.
When you say seized, was it a product of an agreement that was breached? If it is, can you still say it was seized?
Of course.
Or if they breach an agreement, those are the consequences of
Of course.
the agreement.
They should have known that there are consequences and that such things were not a gift anyway.
All right, so there you go. That is a look at some of the dailies here today. Thank you for coming on. Demak Pan is an editor with Vanguard newspaper. We will be back in a moment. Stay with us.
It's true that we lost some states as a ruling party in a developing country, which is abnormal, but that I'm proud of that because we are impartial, that as a ruling party we lost some states. That shows we have our own mistakes. We got our own mistakes. And I am one of those that defeated us, some of them sitting here, that we know we are a developing country, but we respect our country. Otherwise, we would have, because we still have the army, the police, and the rest of them, we could have overrun you, but we just wanted to show that we are humane and we are Nigerians.
So there you go, that the Northeast governors haven't visited the president. That was his perspective in terms of what he thought was going to happen. But it's something that of equal concern to not just the Northeast. I mean, you saw the governors of Zamfara. You've seen that of Katsina. Several states up north, down south, all concerned about what is going on. Well, much as the National Assembly may have stated and restated their positions as to the service chiefs, there are questions too as to what do we do? How do we progress? If we get the service chief to take a bow and go, does that, will that, can that be a panacea to addressing the structure, the architecture of security such that we can get results moving forward? So there are many questions about all of these things which we will focus on.
You know, one of the things that's, I'm really, really concerned about is what the Northeast governors told the president, which is that the insurgents are recruiting more people. Now, that is a concern, because I remember in the wake of the abduction of the Chibok girls, I, was part of a production that was trying to find out exactly what, informed all of this. And we found out that these guys gave incentives to the people before they were recruited. What was the incentive? Financial incentive, which is one of the, things that underscored, what some of our guests have talked about, the economic factors, especially Professor Itanibi yesterday that was talking about the economic factors of this insurgency that we are talking about. Poverty, unemployment, economic downturn, those things are something significant, for us to deal with if indeed we are going to contend with it. So these guys are recruiting more people.
How significant are those? As much as, yes, it may be a challenge, but remember the Nigeria's position in the world poverty clock. It's across board. So do we have the same thing? People are faced with that kind of challenge across board. So how much of a challenge can we use that as a facade? Because many say if we don't see the bigger picture.
Yeah, I know. I listened to Prof yesterday, or is it the first? I get that, but the peculiarity of the northern region of Nigeria is what is of concern. We're talking about the world poverty clock now. And if you look at it, just as you said, it's a wide mix. If you look at it by male gender or by female gender, it's about 50%. If you look at it by age range, it's about 50%. It's horrible. It's terrible. But the concern of the specific issues that these governors are raising with the president is something that is significant. So the question that you want to ask is, what needs to be done at the federal level or at the state level that we are not doing as far as this is concerned? Because these guys are giving incentives to the people that they are recruiting. What can we do to mitigate that?
And, it's not just those states. Kaduna as well. Remember, they face an equal uphill task. How do you address those security concerns, the killings going on in southern Kaduna? So it's all gamut, so much to actually focus on. Not that it's not been talked about before, but who's listening? Why aren't we having results? Why does it appear as though you're pouring water on stones? So these are some of the issues.
Which also underscores what Prof said yesterday, and someone else had told, I think it was Rotimi Williams, who had, that about the importance of intelligence gathering, importance of data. Without, as you listened to the Prof yesterday, without that intelligence, without specific data and specific and good use, judicious use of that data, we seem to be boxing in the wind.
Well, here's more concerns being raised by those in authority.
The forum commends the effort of the federal government of Nigeria in fighting the insurgency. However, the armed forces should intensify effort to secure hard-to-reach areas in the region and ensure safe access to farmlands and other socio-economic activities. The forum called on the federal government of Nigeria to ensure the deployment of state-of-the-art military hardware to the region. The forum recommends that the manpower deficit in the Nigerian armed forces should be breached by allowing the police to carry state-of-the-art weapons where necessary and be provided with strategic equipment like high-velocity tear gas, trackers, and armored personnel carriers, APC. The forum called on the Federal Ministry of Water Resources to ensure that attention is given to recharging the Lake Chad Forum from national water bodies and strengthen the river basins in the sub-region.
So there you go, some of those concerns there, but there'll be a lot of questions too about the governors. Is that what they can do really? And then the National Assembly themselves. Remember the last time out, they were supposed to amend the laws to ensure that we address the way the security is presently constituted, whether or not a different style of policing will be addressed or not. What do we do? Should we just leave that community policing? In fact, something that's just sloganeering when you talk about community policing, because different IGPs come to town and they implement it in the way they best understand or think it will get results as far as they are concerned. And it just keeps going on that way. But how long can we keep going on like this?
The major concern for me here are the people. I mean, you heard the governor of Borno State, talking about the need for people to go back to their farms, the need for people to go back to work. So if that is happening in the Northeast, the one in Kaduna is no less. When people go to bed and they are not sure of what's going to happen in the night, it is something of concern. And we have had a number of guests who have talked about, some political factors. While some are saying that these issues, date back many, many years, and they have to do with land, farmers, herders, and all those things, we just need to have that conversation. I also remember the presidency released a press statement on that, saying that the people need to come together and have that conversation. While that is important, there needs to be leadership provided. Yes, we're also talking about the role of traditional rulers, but then what the role specifically are the traditional rulers expected to play in a way that it will have direct impact on how the people respond when things happen in their communities? It is really something that gives us serious concern. So let's just hope that, on the one hand, we have this conversation this morning. On the other hand, we see results, both from the National Assembly. The president said we need to rejig the security architecture. That's good. But then...
Yeah, but what does that mean?
What does it mean? I mean, you talked about the National Assembly. Straight away, my mind goes to, some constitutional rejig, if we can talk about that, in a way that we give a little more control of the security apparatus of each state to the governors, at least to the chief executives of the state, who are, according to the Constitution, the chief security officer of the state. So how can you be a general without an army? Maybe that's something in the court of the National Assembly, right?
Yeah, it's something that we'll just take a look at all of those. But I think about now we should be able to get to some of the guests, right?
Yes, we have in our Abuja studio now a couple of people. Well, one person in Abuja studio and the other person will be joining us virtually. The leader of the Hausa community in Jama. He's also general manager of Kaduna State Water Corporation. He joins us in our Abuja studio. Lawal Maikudi, thank you very much for joining us this morning. We also have the
Sanusi,
president.
not Lawa.
Oh, okay, Sanusi Maikudi, beg your pardon. We also have the president, Southern Kaduna People's Union. He joins us virtually as well. Gentlemen, thank you for this, for being a part of this conversation this morning. Let's begin with you in our Abuja studio, Sanusi Maikudi, leader of the Hausa community and GM of Kaduna State Water Corporation. First of all, these issues have been on for so long, and people are wondering, what really are the issues? Now, there are many things in public domain about why this has been going on. Where do you stand on this, and what is the peculiar issue that we are probably not giving attention to?
Thank you very much. Viewers, good morning. No one can deny that we have a very big security and violent conflict in southern Kaduna. In my last engagement with the channel's television, I defined it as age-long, complicated, and complex. And any stakeholder who is intending to resolve the problem, he should adopt the craft of doctors. First, before you treat any ailment, you have to properly understand it. Unfortunately, instead of objectively dissecting the issues, comprehensively articulating what they truly are, the issue has been hijacked by some politicians, some so-called champions of the people who arrogated to themselves the right to define the issues at stake. What is actually happening is that around 40 years ago, since 1980, Southern Kaduna has witnessed ethno-religious conflict. It used to reoccur at different occasions for different reasons. Different governments before the current one constituted commission of inquiries that listened to all the parties in the dispute through submission of memoranda and oral defense. Thereafter, reports will be compiled, white papers will be issued, but they are not being implemented. So this lack of implementation of the white papers and the posture of the Southern Kaduna People Union, called SUKAPO, as the strongest and most dominant mouthpiece of the majority of the people in the area, does not help matters. Because the Southern Kaduna, if you look at their press statements, they are calling Nigerians who, by the design of God, happen to be in Southern Kaduna. Like myself, I'm Hausa, Muslim. If you want to call it the way we are calling the Nigerian press, I am part of the Hausa Fulani Muslims of Southern Kaduna. I was born in 1964. My father relocated here in 1945.
Mr. Ekudi, just one moment. Let's you've laid a good foundation, from your perspective. But let's take this now to Honorable Jonathan Asake, who is the president of SUKAPO that you have just referenced now. Well, Honorable Asake, how do you open on this? I mean, you definitely want to react to some of the things that you've heard him say.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning. Actually, this is where the problem lies. When one thing is happening, instead of looking for a solution to the issue, he is talking about a different thing. There is no doubt that Kaduna State from 1980 has undergone series of crises, some communal, some religious, and so on. But what we are facing today is different. That is what we're trying to tell Nigerians. We are facing a situation of incessant invasion of vulnerable communities that don't know why they are being invaded. And the invaders come by night or early morning hours, and they continue to massacre people in their sleep. And they massacre from community to community, from local government to local government. Of the 12 local governments of Southern Kaduna, none has been left out. Most communities in those local governments have been invaded, many people massacred, many more displaced out of their communities. And in fact, there are several communities.
Just one moment, Honorable Asake. All the things that you have said here, well, valid as you may see it, and maybe a number of other people believe you, he has also referenced the fact that this is age-long, and you also agree, but that they have been happening for different reasons. The reasons have shifted shape over the years. That is suggesting that there is no specific reason for this, or there is a reason that is hidden and it's just shifting over time. What then would be the solution if we can't find the root cause of these issues?
It's not that we cannot find the root cause. I am actually stating that there is a reason. What we are going through now is elimination of people in their communities. And the government of the day keeps denying, living in self-denial and misleading the world that nothing like that is happening. It's genocide that is happening. It's different from the conflicts that we have had before. The fact that we have had conflicts before does not confuse with the situation where we have a different occurrence of massacre that is going on across our communities. And the government of the day in the state have chosen to call it a conflict between two communities. It is not a conflict between two communities. What we're talking about now, the killing of the 33 people that happened last week in Zangon Katav, and another 22 people, and all the killings that have been taking place in Kajuru, we have recorded over 500 deaths, and over 60 communities are displaced. They cannot go back to farm.
Honorable Asake, I think it will be difficult for anyone. Yes. I think it will be very difficult for anyone to agree with you that there will be a government in place in a state, and that government is superintending over the genocide of its own people. But let me take this to Honorable Asake. Just one moment.
Now,
okay, go ahead.
If you listen to my story, I am telling you, and I'm about to tell you what is happening. If you will believe me, and you can go on a fact finding, right now in Chukun local government, Kajur local government, Zango Katav local government, Kora local government, there are many communities that have been displaced by these invaders. Many people have been massacred. They cannot go back to their farm. Right now in Zango Katav local government, for 8 weeks running, the governor has imposed a 24 hours curfew. And within this 24 hours curfew, 3 attacks have taken place with over 50 people killed and many communities displaced. Right now in Zonkwa, there are over 5,000 people that have been displaced. They are in a camp right now, hosted by an Equa Church facility, not by the government. So what are we talking about? We're talking about a situation where the narratives is being deliberately changed to take the world's attention from the genocide that is taking place in southern Kaduna. And you can
that is noted. That is noted. Just one moment, Honorable Asake. That is noted, and we'll take that further. But let me take this back to Mr. Mekudi. Now, there's something you said the other time, and I'd like you to speak to that specifically. You said that some people are using their political offices to foster some agenda. Exactly what do you mean by this?
Not political offices, but political interest. But let us go back to what Mr. Asake said. He talked of
please stay with the issue. Please stay with the issue of the political factors. Just one moment.
The IDPs in Mariri,
just one moment.
Call us here to get perspectives.
Yes, yes, we will get the perspectives, but I'd like you to please speak to.
Let us give you the facts as we see them.
Okay.
He is painting a wrong picture to the world, which is dishonest and fraudulent. Mr. Jonathan Asake is from Ongwelimi in Zangon Katav local government, just less than 5 kilometers from Kafanchan. 20 to 30 years ago, it has a vibrant House of Fulani Muslim community with their leaders, their market, their shops, and today they have 100% been cleansed. In 2011, where was Mr. Jonathan Asake? Where was his senior brother, Reverend Musa Asake? We agree there are problems, but as much as the tribal southern Kaduna people are being killed, the Muslims therein are being killed in greater numbers. You go to Mariri in Samina, a Lere local government, you will see thousands of displaced IDPs. But Sokapu does not care because they are Muslims, they are Hausas, they are Fulanis. In June 11, the crisis that erupted and caused the current nightmare is a conflict on a farmland in the outskirts of Zangon Kataf. That issue lingered from 1992 to date. When we say it is age-long, it became a flashpoint because it remained unresolved. And Jonathan is comfortable. He doesn't want us to see the comprehensive picture of what is happening. Mekudi, he wants us to be selective in articulating the issues and deciding to paint a picture. And he's a politician.
Could you tell us now?
He's not a patriot.
As much
he
as
doesn't regard the life of Muslims and Hausas and Fulanis in southern Kaduna as anything.
Can you hold on a minute? Let me put in the question.
Killed, he doesn't care.
Can you hold on? Let me put in the question. Now, as much as possible, let's stay with the issues and leave out personalities in this case because the issues are what needs to be addressed. Could you tell us why are these attacks going on and what do we need to do to stop them?
Which attacks?
The invasion and the killings which Mr. Asake just spoke about going on in southern Kaduna.
Ask him Ask Mr. Asake. Let me tell you what happened. As I told you, I am from Southern Kaduna. I was born 1964. And from 1964 to date, I have never spent more than 3 months outside Southern Kaduna. The longest period I lived out of Southern Kaduna was when I was in boarding schools, both secondary and tertiary levels. All my life I've been in Southern Kaduna. So I know I have family members across ethnic and religious
tell us then, we're losing time.
The
tell us,
of the
why
matter
is
was
it happening?
That on June 11th, you need to understand, on June 11th, one farmer was found dead and is Chawe by tribe close to the bridge of the boundary between Zangon Katab and Chawe. And that gentleman happens to be a Chawe by tribe. And the neighboring Katab, instead of them to follow rule of law, take that corpse to their chief or to court and insist that the killers should be traced and punished according to the laws of the land. They took the law into their hands and they extrajudicially killed close to 100 people. And they killed all the Fulani neighbors within the interior.
So is this a revenge?
I'm not talking about that.
Is this a revenge for that killing?
He's selecting comfortable facts.
Can you hear me? Is this a revenge for that killing now?
If anybody kills, we must be angry, regardless of whether he's a Muslim or a Christian. Life matter, either Christian or Muslim, either Fulani or Hausa.
Can you hear me, Mr. Mekuja? I need to be sure you can hear me.
It is one single humanity.
Is that why the killings is going on? Is it a revenge killing now?
Most likely it is attack and counter attacks, because the judiciary have failed. All the commission of inquiry said none was implemented. Let me tell you our example. In 2011, the post-election violence in Mr. Jonathan's village, the whole Muslims there were killed, except few survivors who are now permanent IDPs in Sabanguse after Tapa on their way to Abuja in Niger State. We went to all the courts in customary court in Zankwa, magistrate court in Kafanchan, High Court in Kafanchan. The cases have lingered for 9 years now, 2011 to 2020. The only place we got judgment was from the ECOWAS court. We have gotten a judgment indicting those who kill our people, displace them and destroy their property.
So does that mean now
damages were awarded?
So
we are now going to Federal Court of Appeal to execute the judgment with scale.
All right. Let's get Mr. Sake before we wrap up. Mr. Sake, I hope you heard part of what he's talking about now. So what then do we do moving forward if what he says are the case, if you agree with it? Respond to that first.
Well, I didn't actually hear because I had problem with network here. But one thing I want to say here is that the man that sits there and talking is just misleading Nigerians. The truth about it is that he's not even from Kaduna State. Just about 5 years ago, he was a special advisor in his own home state, Katsina. And he is the one that has been actually going about causing the confusion, giving the wrong narratives. The narrative remains the same, that genocide is going on in southern Kaduna. Mass graves of our communities or people of our communities are there scattered everywhere. We cannot shift from that. And it is there. We are taking steps for the world to see what is going on in southern Kaduna under the watch of this administration. And that is what we know. The people that are being killed in their sleep. 90% of those people that are being massacred are women and children. If anybody gives a narrative that it is a Hadas and Hamas clash, or it is a reprisal attacks, between communities, which reprisal, those 3 months old children, those pregnant women that they slice their tummies and kill the children, are they also on reprisal? These are questions that he must answer. There is nothing like reprisals, attacks, or farmers' Hadas clash.
All right, Honorable Asake, we have to thank you. I mean, just one moment, excuse me. We really have to go at this point, but we have to thank you very, very much. We just want there to be a solution. Now we know that there are other issues that need attention. Honorable Jonathan Asake is president of Southern Kaduna People's Union, as well as Mr. Maikudi, who is the leader of the House of Community in Jama'a and general manager, Kaduna State Water Corporation. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. We'll take a break for a message or two. We'll be right back.
Now they've talked about the police bearing heavy artillery. They should allow them use that. So the person we've got next is Mr. Abe Agiole, who is the former commissioner of police in Kaduna State. But before then, he was the former commandant of the police mobile training school. He was there for 7 years. He spent a total of 23 years out of 35 in the police mobile force. He was a commander, Mopol 1, Kaduna, Mopol 18, Owerri. A unit commander for Mopol 15, Ilorin. He was DC Operations, Anambra, DC, CID, PH, and FCT. So he's one who should know about some of the things we are about to talk about. Good morning, Mr. Agiole, and thank you for joining us today on the program. So now back here in the country, they're talking about allowing the police to use heavy artillery to carry out their functions, I guess particularly as it has to do with insurgency. Now, how much of a solution can that be to address the immediate concerns about security here?
Chamberlain, thank you so much. I listened to the news too, and I think I will have a kind of different view from that opinion of using heavy artillery by the police force. The police mobile force have operated before. The problem we have is not the issue of artillery. It's the issue of light armored weapons that police could use in these operations. We have had issues like this before. We have had Matisina issues. The then police mobile force was well equipped with police weapons. So I don't think this, because when you get these artilleries, when are you going to train these men to get used to it? These are military hardwares. We don't really need them. There are equipments that the police can have, and honestly, when they can effectively use it in the Northeast.
Now, since you were in Kaduna, could you tell us, what's your understanding of what is going on at the moment?
It's the same issues that have been coming up like the previous ones. I think the issue is that the state, there must be that political will to get these people together. We've gotten them together before, and I think when we actually put in more efforts to get these people, because these people are known, they are within the communities. The attack does not come from anywhere other than the environment in which these things take place. I think when there is the political will to get these people together, I think we should be able to have solutions to this problem.
Could there be, just one moment, could there be some underlying reasons, some endemic issues that have not really come to the fore, for which reason these things are happening?
That is why the communities have to be brought together, and we find out exactly what the problem is. And I know that if efforts are made, honestly, I think we'll be able to solve this problem.
Well, there have been all kinds of efforts. You may have just heard a couple of people talking about some other issues, but then the strategy of government over the years has been using security forces, security operatives, and the rest of them. While you were in Kaduna, what kind of strategies worked, and do you think they can still work now?
Yeah, while I was the CP Kaduna, I think we were dealing more with the people. We're trying to buy their mindsets. We're trying to get them together. We try to make them resolve these issues. And we had town hall meetings, and I was reaching out to their youth leaders, the traditional rulers in some of these areas. And I think we were able to pacify a lot of them. And once these incidents are going to occur, we get a prior notice and we try to go in and stop it from happening.
And at that time, while some of those were arrested and they were paraded, you were quoted to have said 3 years ago, actually, that you recovered the following items from the suspects: golf car, 2 AK-47 rifles, 1 locally made pistol, 3 live cartridges, 5 cell phones, assorted charms, a torchlight, and the sum of 86,000 naira then. This appears as though this is organized, is it?
Yeah, I think certainly it's an organized attack, because each time this thing occurs, it's like a kind of reprisal from one community to the other. I think they are really, really organized. It's not like something they just do. No, it's organized.
Now, about the request for the police to use heavy artillery to tackle some of these challenges, the many who wonder, do you, from your perspective, having been there for a long while, PMF, the heydays, and lately, are we playing the ostrich here? Can this be the solution? Do we need to take a look at the laws in terms of what the police requires and address it holistically, or will this pass as a short-term measure?
I don't subscribe to this issue of police using artillery for operations. These are purely military operations. But the Constitution is clear. Section 4 of the Police Act is very clear to perform such military duties as might be directed by the government. And how do the police function? The truth is, over the years, over the period, the police have lost its operational capabilities. Its operational capacities are lost. Why? Because we have not been properly equipped. I have spent all my careers, most part of my careers in the police mobile force, and when you compare the operations of the police mobile force and now, there are no basis to compare what is happening now and what is happening then, because then the police units are well equipped with armored personnel carriers, the equipment that could penetrate into this insurgent area and operate successfully. But these days they don't have anything. It's just about men, no equipment. We used to have just 4 units in the police mobile force in each squadron, and they were so effective. Now we have 10 units ineffective. The reason is because they are not properly equipped. They are not. We should not begin to look for fire brigade approach in solving problems.
But
the real problem is,
year after year,
yes, go ahead.
There are reports that equipment have been bought for the police, state authorities, governors donate certain things to the police. What happens to all of those when they say they are bought and donated to the police?
These equipments have wear and tear. And the truth is, I have had the opportunity of listening to the IG's Inspector General of Police making requests to government about funding the police force. And so I think what is on the ground is that the police do not have capacity to operate successfully when it comes to insurgency, because we do not have those equipments that will aid them in executing these missions. They don't have. When was the last time on record that the police was equipped? When was the last time? I cannot remember when these equipments were bought. Armored personnel carriers are not toys. When they are brought in, they can be seen. The police have not been able to have access to these equipment for quite a long time.
Well, one other thing that, well, that's for hardware, but one other thing that a number of people have talked about over time is the issue of intelligence gathering or use of intelligence to take on these issues. From your experience and from what you have known, just as you said, you also follow the story. As far as intelligence is concerned, how well are we doing?
See, it's like you have a science professor without a lab. you don't expect any meaningful result from the students he's producing. No matter the intelligence you have, how do you action the intelligence? Weapons, equipments. So I think it's not issue of us, the police force, not having the right intelligence, but how effective are they going to operate with this intelligence? They don't have. You know, with the police force, if you need security, you must pay for it. It's a very expensive project, and the state must commit resources to equip its police force. For now, I'm sorry to say, for now, our capacity to effectively maintain law and order is diminishing gradually because the training is not there, the welfare is not there. So how do you expect these men to operate? You don't operate from nothing.
So, but speaking about intelligence, how does it work? Does the DSS gather intelligence for the police, or does the police get intelligence with the DSS and they share with the military to proceed with the fight against insurgency? What happens?
No, I think the honest truth is the synergy between the services when it comes to information sharing is virtually not really encouraging, because we operate in isolation. The SSS operates on their own, retain their information, do not pass it to the police. The military intelligence have theirs, they do not share this information. So you find out that there is no serious synergy between these forces, and you don't expect serious results in issues like this.
But this is coming despite the president's directive that the agencies must work together, right?
Yeah, executing it is the most important thing. Once there is this mutual mistrust between the services, it's very difficult for you to get them to actually share these informations together, because over the years they've operated differently, and bringing them together will take a lot of efforts. But we're getting there.
Well, you've raised another very critical issue there, that of mistrust. Everybody knows that the Constitution is clear on the fact that the police is supposed to play the leading role in internal security, and of course other agencies, other security agencies are supposed to offer support when called upon by the police. How well do you see that playing out over the years?
That is what ought to be, but it is not what it is. What ought to be is different from what it is. Yes, we ought to play the lead role in this internal security, but as a matter of fact, when we happen to be on a joint operation, these things are not workable that way. So I think there need to be a lot of efforts to be able to get the services together to work in tandem with the Constitution. We do not seek to outwit each other. Once that is done, it is to the detriment of the society. So I think the forces should come together and see we have a common threat, we have a common enemy. What do we do? How do we succeed? But each time we keep operating in isolation, then things doesn't work well. Somebody.
Do we have a national database? I mean, for instance, if one commits a crime, say in Borno, and gets to Yobe, will they be able to identify the person?
With all honesty, I think that is we are trying to get these things together, but for now, it's quite relatively difficult for a criminal who runs to Maiduguri from Kaduna for we to be able to, because we do not have records of these individuals. So it's difficult, but of recent, I know we've been creating databases for criminals and taking their fingerprints and everything. But I think to that aspect, I think the force headquarters is working hard, and I think they have something that is near to that, but not perfect yet.
Perfected. How do you think it should operate? In terms of where should it be domiciled, who can access it, how should it be used?
I think maybe we should be able to have a kind of joint database where all the services will be accessible to, and the informations coming in will be shared jointly. And I think once that is done, like other countries, I think we'll have results.
In reports several times where the military authorities say there are some Boko Haram persons who have been de-radicalized, they've repented, they undergo training, and then send them back into society. They say they work with all the relevant authorities. What do you think about that?
I think the government taking that decision must have their reasons for doing that. They must have done a lot of homework to know exactly whether this thing will be possible. I think so. That's a government decision, and I think they know why they took that decision, and I think it's left for them to continue to assess it. Is it working? If it's not working, what do they do? These are all government policies that I might not be privy to.
From your experience, how useful can that be?
The absorption of terrorists in the community. For now,
kind of strategy yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I think, certain policies are government policies, and it's very difficult for you to understand the reason because for them to have taken such a decision. But sometimes it does help because if the sincerity of purpose from these terrorists that repented and they come into the society could be of assistance to the service. So they provide us information, and I think it's, like I said, it's a government policy.
There can never be an end to talking about solution, because that's what's of utmost importance in all of these things. So let's go over that now. Could you tell us, I mean, from your wealth of experience, there are many who just think, who are in despair about security, about what to do, how to proceed. What do you think we should be doing as a country to address these challenges that we face?
First of all, Chamberlain, we must admit that the Nigerian police do not have capacity for maintenance of law and order. And this has taken place over the years. What we are doing, trying to manage crime, and it's not helping out. One, for you to get an effective and efficient police, you must equip them. You must train them. You must provide them welfare. Because for you to commit the police force to this security project, honestly, there are a lot of things that need to be done. Their training, their welfare, the equipments, everything must be put into consideration. For now, we must admit that these things are not just there.
Governors have also been calling on traditional rulers and the locals to support them in the fight against all of these levels of insecurity. From your experience, what do you think we should be looking at in that regard?
Yeah, the traditional rulers are the community leaders in their various communities, but don't forget, these traditional rulers sometimes, because it's the community they come from, they can sometimes compromise, and you find out that getting them involved sometimes is relatively quite dicey. But while I was in Kaduna, I have to be honest, a lot of the traditional rulers work so hard to assist us in information gathering and providing us access to some of the people who can assist us in our operations. So I think if the traditional rulers are brought in and they are doing good, that is fine with me.
Several top security officials, when they visit different states, time and again, they always appeal to the citizens to provide information to the authorities. And that suggests that, look, enough is not happening in that regard. What should be done about restoring the confidence of Nigerians and the trust of Nigerians to the security agencies, the police inclusive?
Give them the police force they deserve. Give the society, the community, the kind of police force they deserve. The police force that will protect them. The police force that will reassure them that they are safe. The police force that will live within them and make them feel comfortable that we have a force, not the kind of force that Chamberlain, to be honest, each time I look at the issue of the police force and I try to ask, is this actually the kind of police force the society deserves? The answer is no. We have a police force that must be equipped, must understand the communities in which they serve. The issue of community policing, yes, but what are these things actually on the ground? Is this community policing really on the ground? What is it intended to achieve? Are we actually achieving them? The answer certainly is no. You know, for you to solve a problem, you must admit that there's a problem. We have a problem, and we must admit that this problem exists, and that is the only time we begin to solve them. For now, the police have a problem. Capacity problem, no training, weaponry, everything. So we need to really sit and review the operations of the police force. What is making them fail?
Yeah.
Yes, there are a lot of successes here and there, but these are fractions of.
Can the police, can the country be successfully centrally policed from Abuja?
Honestly, I do believe that you can still control the police from the center. The important thing is whether these police are properly equipped to carry out their functions. It's not the control mechanism that is the problem. Are they properly conditioned, trained for this job? When was the last time police officers were exposed to operational training? When was the last time? We can't remember. As a matter of fact, these things are not individualistic. It's not about one individual going to receive a training. No, collectively.
But if that were the case, pardon me, if that were the case, why do we then have different states in spite of how much the state governors spend on the police? Do we still have one form of policing or the other?
Honestly, when we said the states are doing their best to assist the police, but most of the police funding comes from the center. What the states are doing, that they are complementing the role of the center in funding. And I don't understand when you say some police are coming from these states. I don't think so.
Let's wind down with this one. Some say things get worse before it gets better. Do you think that we should have a second look at the Firearms Act and allow Nigerians to bear some sort of arms for self-defense, as it were?
Even the countries where these things are obtainable, they are really having issues. And the advanced countries, they are still having issues with individuals possessing firearms. If you allow this in Nigeria, then the lawlessness will escalate. I don't advise for now. We are not mature for that kind of system where individuals should be allowed to carry weapons. The important thing is for us to build the capacity of our police force to be able to respond to events like this, issues like this. We have the police force we have in Nigeria, Chamberlain. Honestly, if properly trained, if properly equipped, I think some of these missions we're engaging the military, they can effectively do it.
All right then. We do thank you for talking to us this morning. Very early for you over there, though. Mr. Abi Agule, former Commissioner of Police in Kaduna State. We will be back in just a moment. Don't go away. Welcome back. Ezekiel Nyaitok joins us now. He's the DG, Nigeria First Projects. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thanks for having me.
The state of the polity raises huge concerns for everybody. Well, clearly, many will say, look, they always ask questions of leadership. Something, the leadership recruitment process is still very faulty and needs to be addressed headlong. But do you see that even happening? Do they even recognize that as the problem first?
I would say that the moment that people stop to think, they'll find the solution to their problems. Nigeria is one country that people really don't understand. Nigeria is a very peculiar country. Nigeria has the potentials to be a world-class country. Three things. Number one, we have the best of brains in Nigeria. Go outside the world. We have the best of natural resources in Nigeria. Look around. We are shielded from natural disasters. Look around. Now, if this be the case, then what is the problem? The problem is that we that have brains have stopped to think. We have been people with good sight boarding vehicles that are being manned by the partially sighted and sometimes almost completely blind. And we do a lot of analysis. I ask a simple question. What does it take for us to say in the next election we'll have proper elections? Nothing.
They've always said it.
No.
And time and again will tell you what they intend to do. They will color code this, barcode this. But we see the result eventually of every election.
I'll tell you this. I run a company and I keep making losses all the time. I really need to sit down and ask myself what's going on. Meanwhile, the man that is on the seat as my MD keeps telling me things that are not the truth. And I know it's not the truth. I have a choice. Can I fire him? Can I recruit somebody that is competent to do it? The politicians are doing what they should do. It's an enterprise.
Which is what, plunder the country?
Yes, that's it. And we are cooperating with them. I've run an election. Chamberlain, if you want to run for the governorship of Edo State, of Imo State, we have extremely intelligent people in Imo State. They're not asking you, Chamberlain, what's your program?
Is it as simple as that?
No, it's not that simple. Life comes down to the simplest things.
In our present reality?
In our present reality. The present reality is that the people of Imo State are not stupid people. That's our present reality. Their present reality is that the people of Imo State are not illiterate.
People of Nigeria are not stupid.
I'm being very specific. I want to take, or Akwa Ibom State. They are extremely entitled, enlightened, intelligent people. Question is, why can't they say, Chamberlain, you want to be our governor? What are you putting on the table?
So why can't they say that?
That's the question. We've got to tell ourselves that we are being very
Are you saying they haven't said that?
Let me say this. Chamberlain, I want this program to be as realistic as possible.
Yeah, but we've seen fantastic candidates across the country.
Look at Edo State. Look at Edo State. Just pause for a moment and look at the crowd in Edo State. See very intelligent, articulate classmates of yours. With this COVID-19, jumping around like headless chicken. Classmates of yours, knowing everything, and yet they suspend their thinking and they are jumping around.
This is
and you ask yourself, why would your classmate that a very intelligent person, why would he do that?
Take, for instance, Gani Fawehinmi.
Yes.
We all know him.
Yes.
What he stood for.
Yes.
What he represented.
Yes.
He vied for elections alongside several other people.
Yes.
Who did Nigerians vote for?
Thank you. It's the same question. Why have we stopped to interrogate that?
Interrogate what?
Why that happened?
Why do you think it happened?
It is because we have, as I'm talking this morning, somebody is sitting down and asking himself, wow, that's true. Wow, that makes sense. We need to tell the people that we have been like, in our language, there's a saying that there's a frog that makes the rain to beat him. And that is why today, what stops me and you to say, APC, PDP put together, they are less than 30%, less than 35% of the voting population. the other 60 to 65% of the people. What stops us from saying, as from today, I have decided, Ezekiel Aniekanabasi Njaitok, I'm going to ask questions because I'm an intelligent and enlightened person.
I'm not sure you've raised these issues.
In terms of why it happened?
Yeah, no. I mean, in terms of the intelligence of most people.
Yes.
But we're talking about the electorate here.
Yes.
In the face of the present realities,
Yes.
you talked about that present realities. So let's interrogate the present realities.
Yes.
What are those present realities?
I'll tell
Part
you,
of them
is that there's hunger.
Okay.
There's poverty. But what stops us from interrogating the foundation of the hunger and poverty?
Now, who is going to do
the
that?
intelligent man that is you asking. If a politician comes here and you're asking me the questions,
Okay.
that intelligent you, I've had you ask questions, and I'm like, wow, this is good.
The question
is
just
when would you people start to put us on the spot?
Just
instead
one
of
moment.
running the narrative
Just
to
one
say,
moment. Just
look,
one moment.
where do we go from here?
Over
Okay.
the past 20 years,
Yes.
the number of people who vote
Yes.
have been on a gradual decline.
Correct.
Consequently,
Correct.
making increasingly faulty
Yes.
the issue that Chamberlain raised,
Yes.
which is the recruitment
Yes.
pattern.
Yes.
Now, how do we checkmate that issue
Thank you.
in a way that the hungry,
Yes.
the poor,
Yes.
the unemployed
Yes.
will be more futuristic
Yes.
than being present?
Yes.
Because I think that really
I'll tell you this. I contested in 2019, this last election, and it changed my life, my perspectives, and my paradigms. I had no money, relative to others, I was like Boy Scout, okay? And I saw young people leave. There's a particular young boy, I wish I could call his name. He was a leader of the students. And I won't call a particular party offered him 5 million because he led the students. And he came to me. I did not give him 100,000. He said, sir, I've made up my mind. Let me go my conscience so that whatever happens, I'll know that I did wrong. He stayed with me from the beginning of the elections to the end of the elections till now. Young people need people to tell them, give them narratives. People are starting to listen. People are starting to get to the end of the matter. People are looking at Edo State. People are projecting the future. And there are two sets of people here. There is the Nyaitoks above 50. There's the millennials, the younger people. The younger people are starting to say, come, think of it. We are dancing on the grave of our future here.
So, yes, okay. I think you're looking more at the electorate in the urban Nigeria.
No.
Just one moment.
Okay.
You're looking at people like you,
Yes.
who are literate,
Yes.
who can
Yes.
take these perspectives.
Yes.
But there are several others who are
Yes.
so much easier to influence.
Yes, I'm looking
Those
at
are most of the people who vote.
Yes,
and
I
Which
agree.
are the people that
I'm looking
that
at
vote?
a mindset.
Just one moment.
Yes.
Now, take the example of Edo
Yes.
and, of course, consequently, Ondo State.
Yes.
Both elections are going to come
Yes.
real
Yes.
soon. I mean,
Yes.
the elections are what? Less than 2
Yes.
months away.
Yes.
So, what are we looking at
Good.
going forward as far as
Good.
this election is concerned? With all of the
Good.
talk that is going on now
Good.
and all of the conversations that are
Good.
going on, what do
Good.
you see happening? How do we get it right
Good.
with this one
Good.
as a
Two
test
things.
case?
Two things. Don't blame Nigerians for collecting 2 naira to vote. The reason is that a reasonable poor man knows that he won't see this man again. Let him take what he can while he can. I agree. It's a reasonable thing for a reasonable poor man to do. But that same reasonable poor man, if a man like Nyaitok and the media get together to sell him an alternate perspective, an alternate paradigm, not to make him feel APC PDP. Without APC PDP cannot happen. It is a narrative that the politicians have very wisely packaged and sold to us, and stops us from saying, wait a minute, is there an alternative? That is where you and I come in. the enlightened man. Nigeria runs what you call the concept of elitism. It is what I say that the whole of the poor people in my village go by. But I sit down here and say, oh, you know, the poor people don't understand. The poor people, that is the politician's game plan, which has worked perfectly well. But that poor people, Chamberlain, you know that all the people that you, okay, maybe that you sponsor, do you understand me? You can have influence over them. All the people that are in the villages depend on us in the town to go back and give them direction. So the change, the moment we in the villages, the enlightened in the cities, change our mindset, all we need to do is a drive down to our village. Whatever we tell them, that is what has always been. That is why you sit down here, pay the school fees of all these people, and yet one man called politician goes there and controls them. And we allow these people to control the people that we spend our resources on all the time. What stops me from saying the people that I spend my money on, I want to control them? That is one side. There's a second side, which is the quick win, the fastest side, and that is Mr. President. What stops the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria today doing three things? Excuse me, and if this is all I say on this program, I'll be very happy. Three things. Number one, he's a party man. So party loyalty is very important, though he's president. So what does he do? He calls the governor of Edo State, the candidate. He calls the chairman of his party at the national and at the state. He calls these three people to his room or to his meeting and says, guys, I want to have fair, clean, credible elections in Edo State. This is my support for you. This is 1 million. I've also asked Shehu Garuba to get me about 150 people that are my supporters. They have donated 1 million each. This is 151 million. This is my contribution to you. Please go and campaign. We are going to have proper elections. That's an in-house thing. Nobody knows, just the three. That's the first meeting.
Does it have to do that for that to have peaceful elections?
I'm coming. It's important. When you want to achieve something, you do something. I'm talking of do something. That's number one. Number two, he calls the IGP and INEC chairman to a meeting and says, if I don't have credible elections in Edo State, none of you survives a day after. I don't care how you do it. I want free, fair, credible elections in Edo State. That's all I need to say. What do you need? Articulate it, give it to my chief of staff, let it get to me. The meeting does not last more than 3 minutes. I want free, fair, credible elections in Edo State. I don't have that. None of you last for the 1 minute after that. He goes on. Number three, he calls the candidates, even if it is PDP, APC alone. Remember, when you want to kill a fly, and it's really, you don't mind using a sledgehammer, you want a signal in Edo State. Number three, you call the candidates. Either all the candidates or the two main candidates, and tell them, guys, we're going to have free, fair, credible elections. All this nonsense has to stop. Change all this. I don't want all this running around and having the COVID and everything. Have town hall meetings. As from today, that nonsense stops. I beg you.
So if he doesn't do all that?
You are Mr. President. You are Mr. President. Mm-hmm. You are Mr. President. And the security and welfare of this country is put in your hands. So you do your part. This is the part you can do as the number one citizen of this country. If he does that, tomorrow morning, Chamberlain, you see a completely different system.
So I think this issue that you have raised
is a social issue.
Yes.
So what if he doesn't do that?
If he chooses not to do that, posterity will judge him when he leaves office.
No, are you assuming
we continue to have our problems.
So
no problem. Yes.
Are you assuming that that is the only way that these challenges can be addressed?
There are two ways. There are two ways. First is that don't expect the man in the village to just wake up and say all is well. No. You, the enlightened person, get to him. I got to my village. I got to my people. You know, sometimes, let me tell you something. The world is run on what? on idealism. Think
Okay.
about it.
Now-
Unless there's a man that is willing to stand up and say, look, I'll tell you this. What I just left my phone for you, okay? Now, what is that phone? One man sat down one day and said, why can't I sit down here and talk to my friend in the next village? They called him Ifot. Ifot means witch. Today, that Ifot held on to that belief, held on to that thought, held on to that. He held on tenaciously. He refused to let go.
Let me
And
bring- let
with
me
time,
just-
we now come to have telephones. Because
the
a
thing
man
is,
dared to dream.
when you
the
talk
day
about-
you fail to dream, you start to die.
When you talk about the elites playing certain role
Yes.
and the people, responding as a result of some of those actions
Yes.
or inactions, as it were,
Yes.
do we quickly forget recently Sudan?
Yes.
Nobody saw, at least
Saw it
those who were
coming.
watching from a distance,
Yes.
how that protest was going to happen, but it
Yes.
happened.
Yes.
And then when Nigerians were being attacked in South Africa,
Yes.
we saw the response in Nigeria.
Yes.
Nobody saw that happen. Even
Yes.
the police were unawares because the way
Yes.
they responded,
Yes.
shooting and everything.
Yes.
Aren't we misdiagnosing some of these things, thinking that
Tell
we'll have
me.
it on the wraps?
Tell me. Like, you see, the leaders...
In terms of waiting for somebody to come in and control things, there could be things could just happen.
Two things. Number one, you see, I am one for protests. But there are two things. Protest is shopping.
No, it's not
I'm coming.
just about the
I'm coming,
protest.
yes.
I'm talking about people who we think can't take certain action unless they wait for a leader to come in. We may have missed the point. In
My
that regard.
concern is spontaneous reactions, which is protests, can go the wrong way and make things worse.
And it can go the right way.
Yes, it can go the right way. Why can't I control my system? I control my environment. Why can't you and I today start to have an enlightened narrative as to how things can be done?
I don't know how.
Maybe if channels can, you do a lot of awesome things. This is one station. My family knows channels. I don't joke with it. On one other station, I don't have to say it here. Okay. But the thing is, can we just have a program of what you call solution providers? We are such amazing problem analysts.
Which is what all programs here are designed to
But
address.
what
But
do we
there's
do?
an issue
Yes.
that you haven't factored in all
Please
of this.
tell me.
Each election
Yes.
in each state
Yes.
is local.
Yes.
The issues in Edo State are
Yes.
peculiar to Edo State.
Correct.
The issues
Relatively.
in Ondo
The hunger
State.
and the poverty is general.
Well, I'm talking about the main issues now
Okay.
that are,
Okay.
seem to be conflagrating things.
Okay.
Then the issues in Ondo State
Yes.
seem to be, definitely are peculiar to Ondo State. There is a common denominator.
Yes.
The locals.
Yes.
All politics
Yes.
is local.
Yes.
We don't seem to have factored all of that into this conversation so
We,
far.
we have, as local as all politics is, there is a general factor. You can't dismiss the fact that in Nigeria we run the concept of elitism. The masses listen to us. That's why Buhari can sit down and tell you that I have 10 million voters in my pocket. And he actually produces it. He doesn't just say it. Okay? So what happens? We are followers.
So essentially you're saying that the elitism isn't
The
working
elites
for
are
us.
the people that have failed this country. We are the problem.
So that is not working for us.
That's where we need to start to rejig. That's why when Professor Patutomi decided to get a few people together, I ran. I didn't wait to be called. I ran to join him and say, sir, this thing you are trying to do, let people talk down on it. Let people say what they want to say. I, as a reasonable man, I've listened to it.
Okay.
I've heard you talk about leadership recruitment that must be done properly. I am joining you.
The strategy with which Nigeria has decided to recruit leaders is politics, is democracy.
Yes.
And I also heard the Honorable Speaker of the House of Representatives, former Speaker,
Yes,
Naba, say
Naba,
yesterday,
yes.
placing a blame on the
Yes.
political class.
Yes.
Solutions now. How do we begin to speak the language to the political class in a way that it will dive down to the people?
Number one is that the political class are two. They are the entrepreneurs, political entrepreneurs. What they want is different from what we want. Incidentally, we want them to give us what we want, which is far from what they want. It's like expecting a dog to meow or a cat to bark. The political entrepreneurs have their game and they will play their game till no end. There is also the others who think nationalistic. They are patriots in politics. So what we're trying to do is bring that class of people, of patriots together and say, we want to run a great country and the leadership recruitment must be proper. So how do we do it? The people must own the process, must bring the people together. How do we do it? So there is a conversation. That's why, like yesterday, I'll let the cat out of the bag. Yesterday, I was in Uyo yesterday. When I heard of the launching, the press conference of National Consultative Front, and I read what they wanted to do, I boarded the next flight. I came here, and from here I'm going right back to you. The time has come. We have done, there's a time for the listening.
All right.
Do you understand me?
Let's wind down with this.
Yes, let me just say this.
Right.
There is the hear something stage. Mm-hmm. There is the see something stage. There is a say something stage. We've gone through that. Amazing. We are now at the stage of do something stage. So I have decided to do something and join these people.
Why do you think that the political class will change anything?
They will never change.
If they don't see anything wrong with it, if it's benefiting them.
They will never change. That is why we've agreed. But there are times we can't afford. I don't sit down and see you come and rape my mother and I keep quiet. This country is mine. This country is mine. It's not theirs only. It's mine. So I'm coming in to say enough of the nonsense. Look at NDDC, for instance. Does it take rocket science for you to see? Let me be very specific. That there's a lady like Ifweko Moigwe. Everybody knows her. She was an FRRS. What stops you? And I use her as a metaphor for the Ifwekos. Mr. President wants to fix NDDC. What do you do first? The question is, what is his criteria for choosing the 1, 2, 3, 4 people that he wants to put there? Without judging them, was he looking for the very best people, or was he saying, Amechi, give me name, Akpabio, give me name, Omogege, give me name? So the mentality is, do we want to fix this country? You fix it when you get the right people doing the right job.
Were you satisfied with the response of the people of the region for which NDDC was set up for?
No. Far from satisfied. I'm one of those that say, Mr. President, whatever it takes, let that audit go on. Whatever it takes. We have been raped for too long. NDDC never belonged to Niger Delta. NDDC has always been a property of Abuja. Within Abuja, 2 places, the presidency and the National Assembly. So they have been the owners of NDDC. So it's just domiciled in NDDC.
The people are not asking enough questions.
No, we're not. We've been too docile.
So perhaps that's why
we're very happy and say, Mr. President, please ask the president on our behalf. And we will be so happy to crown you as a son, special son of Niger Delta. Ask questions.
Aren't you concerned that all the people that have led the NDDC are Niger Deltans themselves?
Yeah, my brother, I have sat in the offices. I am extremely close to NDDC. I've sat in their offices and seen the pressure that these people from National Assembly and Presidency put on these people. And it's not so easy for you to say, I walk away. I have seen it.
All right.
So they have been like boys sent to go and do something for them. Okay, now we want people that will take ownership and do what is right in NDDC.
We do thank you very much. Ezekiel Nyantoke is the Director General, Nigeria First Project. Well, before we wrap up, let's take a look at some messages. Well, Felix Akman, for instance, thinks that it will seem like we are more interested in sound bites than pragmatic solution to the problem. Why don't we set up a security outfit in those vulnerable communities with indigenes that are familiar with the terrain to stop incessant attacks?
Well, Chris says the number of people who vote is increasingly reducing. Some of us didn't vote because despite every effort, we didn't get our voters' cards due to a change of location.
Oluwaseun Raji says, peaceful elections do not follow the theory propounded by you. It says the lions and tigers, as well as those who have backings of such, some groups hardly watch TV. We must make leadership to be service-based and not money-driven. So, Dr. Panos, I think we need change agents. I think that's where that resounds with what you have said. So, there you go. Thank you all for your messages. We'll see you tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain Oso.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Do not forget, please stay safe. Have a wonderful day.